Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome everybody into today's session. And just like we usually have it, we're having another topic of the day. Is being powered by the Association of Academic Qualitative Research LikeMinds. And our guest for today is the person of Dr. Mrs. Otega. Um Dr. Mrs. Otega, I hope you're in the house
I'm in
because
the
I
house,
would
doctor.
okay, I would love you to be present while we are reading your citation. I welcome Fagbemi Victoria Yemi and Oyekami Olawale, and as well as Dr. Kolawole Aramide from University of Ibadan. While we are waiting for other members of the group to join, I would quickly like to read the citation of Dr. Otega Okinono. Uh, while we are doing that, I welcome you once again, Dr. Otega.
Thank you so much.
My name is Ajani Yusuf Ayodeji, and I'm the spokesperson for the association. Dr. Otega Okinono holds a doctorate degree in sociology from University Utara, Malaysia. Our research interest focuses on in management and social science issues, mainly on sustainable development, spanning through livelihood issues, environmental sustainability, project management, entrepreneurship skills development, governance and gender studies, and so on and so forth. She was a lecturer at the Delta State University, Abraka, until January 2020, when she transferred her service to University of Delta, Agbo, Delta State. She's currently a senior lecturer in the Department of Sociology and Security Studies, and also the coordinator, research and development. She's also a mental health advocate and a trainer, resources person in social and contemporary issues. She has a strong passion for creative and innovative ideas that can help develop and enhance like minds. In regards to this is the short citation being read about Dr. Otega Okinono. So while we are waiting others, I would like to welcome Dr. Otega once again to come into the house and give us our presentation. Dr. Otega, you have
Thank
the
you,
floor,
Dr.
man.
Yusuf.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Dr. Yusuf, and a good afternoon to everyone present. I am excited to be here today, and I hope every one of us here will benefit from what we are going to be learning about our mental health. First of all, I'm sure we're seeing the slides. We look at the objective of this lecture. First, we are looking at mental health at workplace, how to promote positive mental health at workplace, not just mental health, but mental well-being. And if we are looking at the slides, we'll see the first picture there. I don't know if Dr. Yusuf can help us here. The first picture there, you can just take a few seconds to look at it and then tell us exactly what is there. You can interpret if it's an organized setting or a disorganized setting or a relaxed setting is left for us to judge. And thereafter, we go to the next slide. We see we see an image there. At the middle is a brain, and the two traits there, which represent balance. And also, we can also interpret from that. And that brings us to the objective of this lecture. Objective of this lecture is to educate us, everybody, on the awareness on mental health issues around us as individuals, our workplace, and also mobilizing efforts in promoting a balanced mental health and well-being. This is the main objective of this lecture. Why then do we need to talk about mental health? Why is mental health so important to us? Looking at society today, we know we need more awareness on mental health issues. Physical health, as we all know, affects the well-being of our body, our mental health, and also disorders that affect every part of our body. But mental health disorder affects our minds, our hearts, our soul, the way we think, the way we interpret things, the way we react. It has to do with that. It's different from physical health. In as much as we try to take care of our physical health, we should also be mindful of our mental health. It also gives us the ability to cope with everyday stress and pressures in our daily lives, in the society, in our workplace, at home, and also the ability to manage the changes that occur every day in our lives, from birth to adulthood. And that is why the World Health Organization has set aside 10th of October of every year to be marked as a mental health day. And this day has been set aside to create more awareness on how to promote positive mental health, not just as workplace, but also in our homes, within ourselves, in our workplace, amongst our friends. We also need to, have more awareness on mental health because it is critical to our ability to think, like I said earlier on, helps us to facilitate decision making, interact with people positively, building healthy relationship within our friends, our workplace, and our environment. It also helps us to relate well. It also helps us to harness our potentials and how we can maximize them to be useful to ourselves and also to society. Therefore, the promotion, protection, and restoration of mental health is very vital to individuals, to organizations, and to the society at large. Then what then is mental health? We have now seen the importance of mental health, why we should know about mental health, because there are different misconceptions about mental health. That is why we need to know what exactly mental health is all about. Mental health is an important and essential component of our health, a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. Is not just the absence of disease or infirmity. That is mental health. It's a state of well-being in which the individual is able to realize his own potentials, his own ability, how he's able to cope with the normal stress of life. We all know that stress of life is inevitable, is a part of our daily life activities. So we cannot, exempt that from our daily life. So it helps us to cope with the normal stress of life that we come across every day, and also helps us to work productively and fruitfully in anywhere we found ourselves, in the home, in our workplace, in our business places, in our relationship with people. Then, having know what it is, what are the possible causes of mental health disorder? What are the possible causes of mental health disorder? If we look at this diagram, we are going to see, if we are able to read it, fine. But if we can't read it, I've been able to write them out. We see anxiety, we see phobia, we see stress, we see panic, we see depression, and all of that. And the possible causes of mental health disorder is not our fault either, okay? It is not something we bring upon ourselves. It could be as a result of some biological factors, genetic factors, the brain chemistry, life experiences like traumatic experiences, experiences of abuse, family history, societal pressure, and social dynamics, changes that occur in society. How are we able to cope with these changes as they come? And so when we have an understanding of what mental health is, we are able to identify some of the signs and symptoms which we are going to look at today, and able to have that mindset that mental health will happen to anybody. It does not mean insanity. Then we are able to cope with stresses of life when we find ourselves in such situations. Now, Possible causes of mental health at workplace. I believe all of us, we work in one establishment, either a private or a public enterprise. So we will be able to know some of the possible causes of poor mental health. Number one is work-life balance. Poor work-life balance. Some people don't balance up their life. They don't disconnect their their career from their, personal life. Okay. So when you are not able to balance these two, you begin to have a kind of stress, and it can lead to depression, it can affect the way you think, the way you do things, and all of that. Then unrealistic workload and expectations. You want to meet up with all expectations. You want to meet up with this, you want to meet up with targets, you are being put under pressure. It could affect your mental health also. And then poor management practices. A lot of us, we don't manage our time, we don't manage our time, we don't manage relationship, we don't manage friendship, we don't know how to manage things around us. It could also affect our mental health. What about the physical environment we find ourselves? At workplace, if an environment is not conducive for you to work and operate as an individual, it could also affect your mental health. For example, the environment, there's no steady supply of electricity, there is no, you have maybe 10 people in an office, congestion in an office, noise, pollution, and all of that can also affect your mental health. Then lack of communication. Lack of communication is another crucial aspect. People inability to pass a message across, inability to interpret what the next person is saying, especially at workplace. You understand? People just, they don't know how to pass information across. And some persons, even when they do, others don't also know how to interpret such information. Then unclear role and responsibilities. In most workplace, roles are not clearly defined. And so you see somebody encroaching into another person's job, somebody who doesn't really know, work are not, responsibilities are not properly defined. You understand? Like, for example, a lot of us are into lecturing, some are into research, and then maybe you are given a particular responsibility apart from going to class to teach, and you mumble everything up. You forget that this is what I need to do at this point in time. There should be division of labor, there should be planning of your time, and also telling yourself, I need to do this. Fine, you need to meet up with tasks and responsibility. However, you have to draw out your schedule of how to meet up with all of this. So the first thing is to identify your role as an individual, your role in the organization, what you are expected to give at the end of the day. Then bullying or harassment. A lot of us are being harassed. We are being bullied at work. And maybe somebody shuts you down because of some defects in you, or maybe your boss is always shouting at you. You feel inferior about yourself. You feel less important about yourself. You feel bad about yourself. And it could bring about some kind of complex. And when this sets in, it can affect your mental health. Then poor support system. Most times at our workplace, we want to do things on our own. We don't want to, talk to people. Maybe we are stressed out. We have a challenge in a particular job task. We don't want to share, and some of us with all the information from our colleagues is not a very good thing to do. And so this also could affect one's mental health at a workplace. Then what are the effects of poor mental health or mental health disorder? Number one, like I said earlier, on stress. And we know what stress does to our physical body and then our mental health and every part of our body. Depression also, it could lead to depression. And when you are depressed, there are so many things that goes with it. It can affect so many things, your organs, it can affect your body system, it can affect how you relate and all of that. Then cognitive impairment, poor performance and inputs. Your retentive memory begin to depreciate. You don't remember things. You are not organized. You don't perform well, low productivity and input at your workplace. Even to yourself, most times you are not able to, help yourself. It could lead to that. And then also poor communication and conflict. Like I said earlier on, misinterpreting people's, people's expression, people's words, and also not, because you are depressed, anything anybody says, you easily get offended. These are things we see every day at our workplace. And also decreased productivity. Of course, you are asked to do something like you are teaching, you are doing a research, you're during exams, you are not able to give in your best, and even within the organization, you are not able to contribute meaningfully to the success of an organization. All of that is as a result of a poor mental health or mental disorder. And then we also have other possible causes of poor mental health at workplace. Like I said earlier on, this is being repeated. Okay, we've said that before. So let's go to the next one. How do we promote positive mental health and well-being at workplace? Organizational and individual levels. Like I said earlier on, number one is good practices to promoting positive mental health at organizational level. It has to start from the organization because the organization has a lot of role to play in helping us promote a positive mental health. It's teamwork, collaboration, and open communication. Nobody is an island, nobody knows it all, nobody is a monopoly of knowledge. Even the superiors, even the top management staff, nobody knows it all. There should be a kind of teamwork, collaborate with other people, especially in this career. Talk to people like through this platform. You could just see somebody's, we've been doing it. I've known so many people on this platform, people I've not met before, and I've been working with them behind closed doors. We've been discussing on research, doing some work together. It's part of collaboration. Maybe you need a particular idea to help you in a research, any research you are doing, or in your teaching skills and all of that. You could put it on the platform like I see most people do. And somebody will just come up and then give you some kind of a help. That is part of collaboration, collaborating with people in different areas, and also open communication. Fine, we'll say we cannot trust people, but even though we can't trust people, you must still trust people anyhow. You have to open up. If you cannot put it on the platform, you can call somebody behind, please, I need you to help me do this. I'm finding a little challenge in this. Open up to people, and in so doing, you begin to get help. And so you are not choked up with a lot of activities, and then also being redundant in your work or at work rather. Then job motivation and appraisal, measure of performance and rewards attached. Most times people are not being motivated. Workers are not being motivated, staffs are not being motivated, and people don't want to give in their best. But when you are being motivated and you are being appraised, and after appraisal, there will be benefits attached, everybody will bring out their best. It doesn't necessarily mean material thing or money. It could be as a result of recognition by giving them some kind of plaques or recognition of excellence, recognition of this. It goes a long way to tell the person, oh, so I'm doing, the person will want to do more. But when organizations don't motivate people, they don't appraise them, they just say, come to work, I give you this target, do this. People are not being motivated. It's a natural thing that happens to everyone. So this is for organization, because I know a lot of us, we are head of departments, we are dean of faculties, we are, directors of different units at our workplace. So we need to put all this into practice, and also suggest it to a different organization. Also, organizational structures and policies should be put in place, for support systems, health policies, for right actions and positive change, policies that will help the individual. Like, I think that is part of what ASU is also fighting for, policies that will help to improve the welfare of academics at workplace, giving them conducive environment to work also. All this will help to promote our mental health and well-being at a workplace. What about the individual level? Let's look at the individual level. This individual level is very, very crucial to our mental health. Number one, recognize your work-life balance. You should be able to identify and recognize, this is my limit. This is how far I can go. I need to balance my home, especially women that we play, multiple tasks. How do you balance this? You balance your private life, your family life, then you go to work. Don't mix them up. You should be able to balance all of this. So you don't carry work over to the house, to your home, or carry some family issues to your place of work. We also need to build resilience because we cannot determine what happens the next hour. Society is changing every day. Policies are coming up. We also have environmental factors coming in, natural disasters like the recent COVID. Some persons have not recovered because they don't have the strong resilience in trying to withstand some unforeseen circumstances or experiences that occur in society. What about our workplace? They could bring in some policies that will throw you off balance. So you need to build resilience, preparing for the future, telling yourself that if anything happens, how do I take it? You understand? Some of us, we don't know how to absorb shock. We don't have the shock absorber. We don't know how to adjust to situations when they come up. We need to do all of this for our mental health sake. I tell people, your mental health should be your priority. You should be selfish about your mental health. When I mean selfish, anything that is going to affect your mental health, please put it aside. Because once your mental health is affected, it affects every part of you. It affects every part. When I say every part, both male and female. Your performance, your private life, and all of that, it affects everything. So the other one is build healthy relationship by connecting and sharing with colleagues. You must have academic friends. You must have friends. You cannot run away from that. Some people will say, no, I cannot mix with this. No, you must have friends. You must identify people that have the same ideology with you. You must identify people in your area of specialization. You must communicate and you draw the line. You must build relationship, healthy relationship, share it with people, like I said earlier on. All of this will help you because there are times you will be in a fix, you don't even know what to do. You must speak up. I have a lot of friends on this platform. I call them, like my mentor, Dr. Razak, we did PhD together in Malaysia. We knew in Malaysia and the relationship is still on. Okay, so these are things we need to do to build our mental health, to promote a positive mental health within ourselves. We must set goals and priorities. Most people, they don't set goals. They don't set goals. Some people will say, we don't know tomorrow. God decides tomorrow, fine. But you must set goals and put it before God. These are my goals. These are my aspirations. And you must prioritize your goals. You don't bring goals and then you don't prioritize your goals. You begin to take the least important one and start solving it. And at the end of the day, you get stuck. You must prioritize our goals in our homes, at our workplace. Put them together, list them out. You must develop that culture of writing. Don't say, I will remember. Oh, I remember very well. No, put them down. Get a jotter, get a diary. You put it down. What am I going to do this week? Anyone you do, you tick it. It will help you also to keep a positive mental health balance. And then develop a relaxing attitude, especially those of us in academics who want to meet up. I want to get promotion. I want to do this. It happened to me also. I put out the papers. I said, how many papers do I need for the next promotion? International, local. At the time, I say, I will like kill myself. If I don't have the promotion this year, it could span into next year. Nobody's going to crucify me for that. But if I drop dead today, work continues. So why should I? It's not going to have any negative effect on me so much. But if I don't manage my time, I don't manage myself, I don't relax, I'm going to break down. And once I break down, I will not be able to perform. Even the papers I'm agitating to write, I won't be able to write them. That is another one. Then developing coping strategy. It has to do with build a strong resilience in dealing with daily unforeseen stress. Look at Nigeria today. We have enough stress already. So you combine your family stress, work stress, Nigeria stress together, and you are not able to build a strong resilience and shock absorber, my dear, you might just collapse. I think last year, there were a lot of cases of suicide. You understand? It didn't just start from there. It started somewhere. It affected their mental health, their thoughts, their minds. You understand? It is not only amongst the poor or illiterate this time around, even amongst the rich, the well-educated, the well-placed career people, they were committing suicide. Why? Because they were not able to identify or have a thorough knowledge of what mental health is and how you can also address it. These are crucial things we must put into consideration. Then stay active. I always tell people, Staying active once in a while, go out with friends, take a walk, go on vacation if you have the resources. Try to relax, stay active, try to do something. There are times, watch movies, you understand? Just identify your passion and use it as a kind of a relaxation and strategy in trying to get out of all of these stress-related issues. How to manage and then maintain a healthy mental health. Creating hope through action. Like I always tell people, enough of talking and talking. What have you been able to do? Start small. First of all, you must initiate a plan and make the move in building a strong relationship at home, offices, business places, because we are social beings. We are social beings. We must relate. We must communicate. We must interact. Just imagine placing you in a house for 1 week. You don't even interact with your environment. You don't interact with the social media. I don't think anybody can survive it for 1 day. Nothing, just placing you there. No, it's not possible. So you must initiate a plan. Tell yourself, what am I going to do right from this moment that I am hearing this lecture? Even me that I'm telling you, I'm also telling myself, I'm also asking myself, what are the plans in place to bring up some initiatives that will help me address some of all these issues that have been highlighted? So we need to be, there are some people, if they don't get anything, they think the sky is going to fall. Heaven is not going to fall. People have been there. They have scaled through. They have succeeded. They have come out of it. Why do we want to kill ourselves in a particular challenge that we don't have, the power to control? So these are things we need to put into consideration. Having done that, we go to the next one. Relationship at home. Relationship at workplace. Helping one another. By the time you are helping people, you feel happy. I don't know about people. Each time I help people, the elderly, the young, I feel happy. I feel fulfilled. Give somebody a smile. Tell somebody you look pretty today. I love your dress. Male, female, you could tell a male, oh, I love your shoe. I love your tie. It doesn't mean anything. Maybe that person is even depressed at that time, and you tell the person you look pretty today, genuinely and sincerely. The person will say, I thought I wasn't looking good. It will bring the person alive, okay? And then at home, we shouldn't do charity begins at work. What do we do at home? How do we relate with our spouses, with our spouse, with our children, with our neighbors, with our families? We must be able to build a healthy relationship. And then friendship, how to manage and maintain a healthy mental lifestyle. If you look at the first picture I showed, the office was scattered, everybody. But if you look at this one, see everybody. This one is asking questions, connecting, networking, sharing, whatever they are doing, collaborating. I need this. This one is relaxed. You see a relaxed atmosphere. And then at the end of the day, they go out to relax, have a drink, go for a picnic, go for sightseeing. It helps you to build and maintain a healthy mental health lifestyle. How can this lecture, mental health awareness, help you and I as an individual? Mental health awareness doesn't just help you and I. Knowing more about mental health disorders can also help you, your family members, your friends, your co-workers. These are things we take so minute. We don't take, them seriously. We just feel mental health is somebody who is mad. No. It's not somebody who is mad at all. And so people feel shy to share. When you tell somebody, I'm having some mental health challenge, this person is mad, because of lack of understanding of what mental health really means. So having a knowledge of what mental health is can also help us as individuals to help ourselves, to help our families, to help our friends. Even at workplace, we share with them also. Then, how can mental health awareness help you and I? You have to understand your symptoms. These are the things. After when I started, training or started doing courses on mental health, I started seeing some of all these changes in myself. And I said, so I was having mental health disorder, a poor mental health. No wonder. Some of you will say, I don't really know what is wrong with me. Changes in your sleeping patterns, you must look out for this. How have you been sleeping before? You become restless. Some people will say it's because I took maybe I took energy drink, I took Nescafe. No, watch the changes around you, how you sleep. How many hours were you sleeping before? Fine, there are times you could be choked up with a lot of work pressure and all of that, but that is aside. Watch how you sleep. If it's always occurring, know that there is something wrong. Then loss of appetite, eating disorder. Some people, when they are mentally down, okay, or imbalance, they eat more. Why some people, they don't have the appetite to eat. So you must watch out for this. Then impulsive decision making, rash decision, irrational decision. Oh, somebody, I just do this. I will just do this. You just start taking decisions. Know that something is wrong. If it's something you have not been doing, mind me, if it's something you have not been doing, you must look out for it. What are those changes that are occurring in you, within and outside of you? Turning to, some drugs or alcohol. These are temporary measures. Some people, they just feel, oh, by the time I take alcohol, it will make me sleep. By the time I take drug, it will make me sleep. No, when you begin to see these signs that you are not that drinking type, there are some people just take maybe a bottle for those who drink, and later you start seeing yourself taking 2, 3, 4 bottles. You always want to go out. You are shying away from something. So you must be able to identify that thing and then handle it. The same thing with alcohol. All of this cannot stop you, cannot solve the problem when it has to do with mental health. Maybe you're having some distress issues or challenges. You must be able to identify and address them, not looking for shortcuts in addressing them. Then also isolation or feeling of worthlessness. You want to stay on your own. I said collaboration, networking, relationship, and interaction is very, very important. When you notice a friend who has been, jovial, a friend who is a jolly good fellow, and all of a sudden the person is withdrawn, don't say, I beg you, he wants to show or whatever. Even yourself, if you see yourself being withdrawn, I just want to be on my own. There are times you want to be on your own, fine, but not something that is, continuous. You're always doing it. If you're always doing it, look out for something. There's something wrong. And if you notice a friend doing that, look out for that friend. Try to see how you can help that friend at that time. Then feeling of worthlessness. That is where complex comes in. I'm not better again. And this is as a result of somebody trying to shut you down or intimidate you, make you feel less important. Okay? When you start feeling that way, looking at yourself as, looking down on yourself, inside of you, you feel you are not doing well, you are not meeting up to expectations, watch it. Something is wrong. You have to address it. Then suicidal thoughts. It will also help you. Like I said earlier on, it doesn't just happen overnight. It goes through some processes and stages. You understand? So when you notice that you're always saying life is not worth living, when you hear somebody saying life is not worth living, what am I even living for? Please get close to that person. Or you're always saying it, what am I even living for? I beg, I tell you, all this work I've been working, of what use? No, it's dragging you to suicidal thought. There's something wrong that you need to do what? Address. So when you know about, have an awareness of mental health, it will help you to identify and understand some of these symptoms, and also understand, have a right knowledge of what mental health is all about. That it is not peculiar to the rich or to the poor. It can happen to anybody. And it is not a state of insanity at all. It is not it at all. So, having said that, let us take this statement as a take-home nugget. Every relationship goes through a struggle, but only strong relationships go through it. Like I said earlier on, we are social beings. Most people you see that commit suicide, they are depressed, it didn't happen in isolation. Somebody might have triggered it. Okay? So what we need to do first, most depressed people or people who committed suicide, you say somebody is responsible. The men, it could be a woman, it could be job pressures, it could be family pressures and all of that. First of all is you must understand that conflict is inevitable amongst two persons, amongst husband and wife, father and children, friends, boss and subordinates and all of that. It happens everywhere. So you must be able to understand that in every relationship, there are crises, there are conflicts, there are disagreements over so many things. But in as much as you understand this, you should also understand that these things can be handled. You don't have to feel bad about it. You don't have to allow it make you feel depressed. Like some persons, you say, I can't believe this friend can do this to me. No, that friend is human. We as humans, we can fail anytime. That is what makes us human. Only God cannot fail. So we must be able to do what? Build strong relationship and devise strategies of how to handle conflict when it comes. So some persons, you just stay away for some time instead of exchanging words with whoever that is involved. Because once you say a thing and it comes out, to take it back is very difficult. And there are some people who don't easily forget what to tell them. So it depends on the kind of relationship you are into. That will determine how you are able to handle that relationship. And I think, having said that, I will say thank you, everybody. I don't know if I'm talking too fast. For those who know me, this is how I talk. Maybe subsequently I can make it gentle, 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 gentle. So I thank you out there for listening. And if there are any questions to ask after this, you are free to do so. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you very much, Dr. Otega. That's a
Thank you.
top-notching presentation. We really appreciate you. I want to actually take a moment to express my sincere appreciation for your wonderful presentation on the mental health.
Thank you
The
so much.
information was insightful and valuable, and I truly appreciate your dedication in increasing the awareness and understanding of these mental health issues.
Thank
Your
you.
expertise were evident, no doubt about that. And it was inspiring to see how you were able to engage and educate the audience. And I want to quickly use this opportunity to thank you once again very, very much.
Thank you,
Um,
doctor.
we will now go to the question and answer session. I have some questions here which some people has actually thrown to me personally to you. But with that, while I will be reading that, should in case anyone in the house have any question for Dr. Ortega, I would want you to raise your hand or you post your question on the chat link. I would want you to do that, please. While we are waiting questions from the audience or raising hands from the audience, there were some questions that are posed personally to me. And Dr. Otega, I hope you're in the house. Are you with us?
I'm listening, doctor.
Okay,
I'm with
that's
you.
good.
Yeah.
Someone asked, he says, how can one recognize the signs and symptoms of mental health disorder? And when should one seek for professional help? That was the question.
Okay. Do you want me to answer them one after the other or put them together? Should I wait for others to come?
Okay. Are you noting it down?
Yes.
Okay. The number two question is that how can one recognize the sign and say, okay, how can one, I think I've read that. Then the number two says, what are the causes of mental health disorder and how can they be prevented? That's the number two
Okay.
question. And the
Okay.
number three question is that how can one support a friend or a family member with mental health disorder?
Okay.
So that is that. So I think some more questions are coming in, but at least we can trashing those three out first.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Yusuf.
You're
Let me
welcome.
start with the first one. How can one economize the signs of mental health, right? Disorder.
Recognize the signs and symptoms.
The signs and symptoms of mental health disorder.
How
Like
can one recognize it?
if you, yeah, yeah. The signs and symptoms of mental health disorder. Am I right?
Yes.
Good. Let me take that first, and then before I can get to getting professional help. Now, like I listed out some signs and symptoms. Now, these signs and symptoms are not what happens now and then in 3 weeks you experience them again. No. Everybody, the signs and symptoms are not peculiar to everybody.
Okay.
Like I said, understand your body system. For example, let me give you my own example. For example, I am not that sleeping type, okay? Maybe because of my nature of work, I know when I sleep. I sleep 10, I wake 4. For over 30 years, this has been me. Then when I am working, I know once it's 10, my body will tell me go and sleep. I can't control it. And once it's 4, my body tells me wake up. Then after some time, I notice that I will even stay awake till 12. I don't feel sleepy. And I don't see anything. I just try to think, what is wrong with me? Oh, what is wrong with me? And I don't resort to taking drugs to sleep because I already have an understanding. Even before I had understanding of mental health issues, I just take water or I just watch a movie and I sleep off. But after this, having understanding of these signs and symptoms, I begin to understand that these changes in my sleeping pattern is as a result of something that is disturbing me. Mind you, the signs and symptoms are not mental health disorder, but they are signs. They are pointers that, if you don't handle them, could degenerate to mental health instability and disorder. That is one thing I want us to know. It is when you don't handle them. Then 2, eating habits. Then 3, losing interest in what you were doing before with excitement. Then 4, this feeling of hopelessness. This feeling of life is no longer interesting. This feeling of isolation. I want to be on my own. Nothing is working. Oh, no, nobody interests you. Nobody is good before you. These are signs. These are not mental health disorders. Please, I want us to understand that. You know, before somebody will fall sick or have malaria or whatever, the signs will come. It is those signs that will make you know that you are sick. These are biological issues. That you are sick, you need to go for a test. Now, when you have those signs and symptoms, I'm going to professional help now. Before it degenerates to mental health disorder or instability, you must talk to somebody. You must talk to somebody. And in talking to somebody, I always tell us, meet professionals. Religious leaders are not professionals, with all due respect to them. There are professionals when it comes to issues of mental health. There are professionals. I'm not saying there are not professionals who are not religious leaders. There are some professionals who are religious leaders, but not all religious leaders are professionals. So you must identify a professional. And these professionals are like the social workers, the clinical psychologists. That is why I say stigma. Some people will say, if I go and meet a clinical psychologist or a psychotherapist, they will say, I am mad. You are not mad. Talk to somebody. But before you go to that extent, you must be able to share your worries with somebody. I always tell people, we cannot trust people, but you must trust anyhow. My friend, my brothers and sisters on this platform. You must trust anyhow, share. If at the end of the day, the person decides to mock you with whatever you have, don't bother. Everybody has gone through that process. You are not the only one in this. Don't feel bad. Move on. Move on. But you must identify somebody to share with. It could be your spouse. It could be your friend. It could be your colleague. But you must be able to. It's somebody you have a good relationship with that you can share with. Okay? Then when you know you don't want to share with somebody who knows you, you look for, there was a radio talk in Delta State. They were asking, where do we have office of a mental health advocates? People don't know, but we have in Asaba, the state capital, but people don't know because the awareness is not wide. The publicity is not wide. People don't know about mental health. So you must be able to identify a professional or a close friend before it degenerates. It is when it has degenerated to you losing concentration in everything that you have lost touch of reality, you can't control what you do anymore, then a professional has to come in, not anybody. Because if you meet anybody, they are going to bring in sentiments. They are going to bring in sentiment, sympathy, not empathy. But a professional will bring in empathy. and make sure he or she helps you go through the process. When you have mental health disorder, you must go through a process of healing. Don't let anybody deceive you that it's going to heal this very moment. No. So I think I've exhausted that. Then causes of
Exactly.
causes and how they can be prevented. I talked about
Exactly.
biological factor. I talked about trauma, some traumatic experiences, some past, bad experiences we have had. You understand? When you see these thoughts start coming back, you remember something, some mistakes you have made, you start feeling bad about yourself. Some of these causes, maybe some failures, it could be as a result of family history, biological history. Maybe there are some persons in the family. You understand? I'm not talking about insanity this time around, not just insanity, okay? If you see some family traits, okay, you have to, I don't want to bring it in. I want to respect everybody here. You have to trace it. How is this family behaving? You must look at yourself. Why am I behaving like this? Like, I like using myself as an example. When I was growing up, my mom was a very quiet woman because she's late, but my dad is very harsh. You all can see the way I talk. It's the way I was brought up. So I try to control it. So some persons will say, she's harsh, she's this. So at the time, I had to trace it. Why am I behaving like this? I now discovered that my grandmother, my father, their lineage, they are like that. So what do? I have to develop strategy to control. People who are close to me wouldn't see it as anything because you are used to it. But when I come to a new environment, I try to manage it. So there are some disorder that could be as a family trait. Okay, biological factor, traumatic, especially traumatic experiences. Some people don't want to let go. They hold tight onto it. I know it's not easy. Holding tight into it is not going to help matters. You have to let go and move on. And how can you prevent those things? You can prevent them like what I've said. Walk away from anything. Be selfish about your mental health. Be selfish about something that will trigger your emotions. Just walk away. Devise a strategy of how to walk away from trouble, of how to walk away from negative energies, of how to walk away from negative people, of how to walk away from people who talk you down, from people who don't see any good thing about you, from people who see the bad side of you more. Walk away. You can also use that to prevent, mental health issues. Then support system. I talked about support to a friend. I have started looking out for my friends. You must be able to know changes that occur in your friends, except you are not a good friend. A friend that comes to the office and is active, and you see the friend sleeping in the office, you know there's something wrong. It could be the friend is sick or something is disturbing that friend. So before you could give help, don't just go and meet the friend and say, hey, Victor, why are you always sleeping in the office? Tega, why are you always vibrating? Why are you always shouting at people? No. Know how to talk to that friend. Then if the person is not a friend, know how to assess that person. You don't just tell somebody, it's like you're having mental health issue. You need help. Oh, no, now you don't do that. You must be able to know how to engage that person. Because some people, you start telling them how they react, how they behave, sudden changes in them, they get aggressive about it. So we also must know how to do all of this. That is why we need this training more often, because there are areas, there are different strategies you could use to engage somebody that is going through some mental health challenges, or somebody experiencing all these signs and symptoms that are not peculiar to that person that you know. So it's a different training entirely, but you must be able to identify. You must be able to know how to engage the person if the person is close to you. Then if the person is not close to you, well, you must try to show love. Love conquers all. Even when the person doesn't want you coming close, respect people's privacy. If the person say, I don't need you, give that person space for some time. Then after some time, you start all over again. Or you could look for somebody close to that person that the person listens to or the person respects. If you really care about helping a friend. I think I don't know if I've been able to address all these questions to some extent anyway.
Yes, to a larger extent. There are some questions in the house that people have been asking. A question from Professor Kolawole Ramide from University of Ibadan. He says,
Okay.
is there any relationship between depression and mental issues? That's number one. Is there any relationship between depression and mental issue? And it says number two, how close is somebody who is depressed to suicidal thoughts? That's
How
the two
what, please?
questions he asked.
How what?
How close? How close is
Okay.
somebody who is depressed, close to suicidal thought? That is there any tendency for
Understand.
somebody that is depressed to have these
Yeah.
suicidal thoughts? That is what it means.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Prof, sir. Thank you, sir, for being here with us today. So the first one is there any relationship between depression and mental health issues or disorder? Now I am looking at mental health from the sociological point of view. I'm not a medical person, so I'm not even going to go into the brain issues and the biological effects and all of that. But all of this could also affect the body system and mechanism. There is a great relationship between, and an even very close relationship between depression and mental health disorder or instability and issues as the case may be. Now, before, when we look at what is poor mental health? Poor mental health is inability of somebody, of anybody, to be able to perform physically and mentally, inability to perform, inability to act well, inability to think well, inability to be productive. You understand? Inability to do so many things around us, physically and mentally. A call just came in. A call just came in. Sorry about that. A call just came in. Hello? Hello?
Move on. You may move on. You may move on now. You have a few more minutes.
Okay. Okay, there is a relationship between depression and mental health. It is mental health disorder that leads to depression. What are those triggers, or what are those pointers that could lead to depression? Depression is not something that comes overnight. No, it is a gradual thing that comes up as a result of something. Like I mentioned earlier on, it could be as a result of failure. It could be as a result of inability to meet up with expectation. It could be as a result of complex. It could be as a result of non-achievement. It could be as a result of financial bankruptcy or so many things. When all of this happens and the individual does not get help, or the individual does not understand how to manage these situations of life, or some of these unseen circumstances or situation in their lives, they start feeling bad. It starts with a feeling of being bad, feeling bad about yourself, having that feeling of worthlessness. And depression comes in when you have given up. You just feel that there's no use for this. I don't see any reason in doing this. And depression is a feeling of worthlessness, a feeling of lack of, you don't have a sense of belonging, a feeling of losing everything. You just feel that you can't make it anymore. And then when it happens, the person begins to have suicidal thoughts. Suicidal thoughts come as a result of, let me just give up. And how do you give up? It's by taking your life. Of course, you can't meet somebody to kill you. Nobody's going to do that for you. So what you do is, I want to take my life. And it's not worth living. Okay? Now, how close is somebody who is depressed? Dr. Yusuf, who is depressed with what? Hello,
What
Dr.
did you
Yusuf.
say?
How close is
Yeah, I can
somebody
hear you.
who
What
is
did you say?
depressed? Yeah, you said how close is somebody
To suicidal thoughts. To suicidal thoughts. To have a
to
suicide
suicidal
thoughts.
thought? Good.
Yeah.
It's very, very close, if not managed. Those people you see that commit suicide, they have gone through depression. Without depression, nobody is going to think about committing suicide at all. Without depression, nobody can think of committing suicide. Depression is a sign of dejection, a sign of feeling rejected, a sign of worthlessness, a feeling of worthlessness, and all of that. The risk is very close to depression, suicidal thoughts, if it is not handled. That is why I stressed on the signs and symptoms that we must look out for. It is those signs and symptoms not properly addressed that leads to depression. And depression not properly managed and handled can lead to what? Suicidal thought. Suicidal thought is not suicide, but close to suicide.
That person should,
the last
that
stage.
person should pause. Please mute your audio.
That's if somebody is going through, if somebody is having a feeling of suicidal thought, you know, you as a close person, you might not know, but you are going to know when, if you are very close to the person and you see the person at odd places, isolation, that is a big, pointer to suicidal ideation. The person is feeling that nobody cares about me, nobody loves me. At that time, they really need people. So when those suicidal thoughts, nobody is coming close, the person feels nobody even cares. Nobody. Can you imagine somebody jumping into the lagoon? The person is not mad, it's depression. The person has lost touch with reality. Suicidal thought is when you have lost touch with reality. You just feel that nothing is working, nobody loves you, you are worthless, you are useless, you are not relevant, even to yourself. So when somebody feels all of these, so what is the essence of living? There's no need. You just feel, let me just take my life. After all, dead people don't hear. Dead people don't think. Dead people don't go through challenges. And so persons might be going through depression without them knowing. I always use my example. Some people don't know when they go through depression, doctor. I must be very frank with you. I went through depression for 1 year without knowing, until I went to a function when we were being taught about, mental health, depression, and I said, so I've been depressed. If I hadn't gone for that meeting, maybe it would have resulted to suicidal thoughts. Okay, so there is a close relationship between depression and mental health issues, and depression and suicidal thoughts. Sir, I don't know if I've been
Thank you very much.
Make any meaning.
You have hit the nail on the head. Without wasting much of our time, because we only have maybe 2 more minutes to go, someone actually asked a question which I think is very important. It says, does food or drinks we take has an effect on our mental health? And then he continues, he said, if yes, can you advise on the type of food and drinks to take and not to take if it does affect our mental health? Do you get that? Did you get that, doctor?
I didn't get it, doctor. I didn't hear you well.
Okay. Does food or drinks we take has an effect on our mental health? Then he continues by saying, if yes, can you advise on the type of food and drinks we should be taking if it does affect our mental health?
Doctor, you see, when we discuss issues like this, you don't make a statement of facts on what you don't really know about. To the best of my knowledge, I don't think I have any knowledge about that, except my own personal experience. So I wouldn't know the kind of food, but I know there are foods that are not good for our health. And our eating habit also could cause mental health disorder when you overeat. And it's a sign of mental health issue, not eating that brings about mental health. It is mental health disorder that brings about poor eating habits, poor drinking lifestyle. But the kind of drinks that triggers our mental health, for now, I don't know. Maybe
that will be all for now, doctor. We really appreciate your wonderful, insightful presentation and the way you have actually responded to those questions. It was really wonderful.
Doctor,
We appreciate you. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
am I okay
What did
with
you
that?
say?
I
Of
said
course,
I
you
will
are.
be able to. Yeah.
Yeah, we will definitely maybe in the recent times coming, we'll definitely bring more professionals in the house to expatiate more on that. We really appreciate
Okay.
your wonderful contribution on this. And without that, without wasting
Thank
much of our time, because we'll be going for the second session of our presentation of today's uh, session. I want to
Okay.
quickly read the citation of the Dr. Otega once again before we finish this session. And once again, Dr. Otega holds a doctorate degree in sociology from University of Utara, Malaysia. Research interests are in management and social science issues, mainly on sustainable development, spanning through livelihood issues, environmental sustainability, project management, entrepreneurship skills development, governance, and gender studies as well. She was a lecturer one at the Delta State University, Abraka, until January 2022, when she transferred her service to University of Delta, Agbo, Delta State. She's currently a senior lecturer in the Department of Sociology and the Security Studies, and also a coordinator of research development at State Fund. She's also a mental health advocate and a trainer, resource person in social and contemporary issues. She has a strong passion. She has a strong passion for creative and innovative ideas that can help develop and enhance mankind. Thank you very much. Now, without wasting much of our time, we will be switching to today's session program. Just like we know, in the time past, we've had different discussions on qualitative research, and which has been anchored by our amiable Dr. Razak in the past and Dr. Yusuf. And these topics, their presentation topics covers tips on how to conduct quantitative research and how to use interview and focus group discussion for data collection in qualitative research. And we also had training on using in vivo software for analysis in qualitative research. At the same time, we brought the person on in the name of Samuel Otulu from the American University of Nigeria back then. And I think he presented something on the fundamentals of qualitative research design. But today, the second session of our program here today is going to focus on the strategies for conducting interview in qualitative research. And this is going to be taken by the person of Dr. Yusuf Suleiman. He is the acting director, he's the director of CRIC at Okinono University. And without wasting much of our time, Dr. Yusuf, I hope you're in the house. Dr. Yusuf, okay. Without wasting much of our time, I would like to read Dr. Yusuf Suleiman's citation while he prepares for his presentation. Dr. Yusuf Suleiman is a senior lecturer in the Department of Educational Management and Counseling, Faculty of Education, LikeMinds University, Ilorin. And he attended College of Education in Ilorin for his Nigerian certificate in education, in business education in 2003, and later proceed to University of Ilorin, where he bagged both Bachelor in Education and Master's in Education in Educational Management in 2008 and 2012, respectively. Because of his passion for education, he proceeded to prestigious University of Utara, Malaysia, where he obtained PhD in education in 2016. Dr. Yusuf Suleiman is currently pursuing another master's in policy and strategic studies at Kwara State University, Nigeria. He is a faculty member with UNICAF University, Nicosia Cyprus, and founder and CEO of Youth Art Education Services Limited, and also the co-founder of a newly established Association of Academic Qualitative Research LikeMinds. In 2019, he was a recipient of Merit Award on Nigerian Patriot of Education Exemplary given by the Majesty Global Charity Education based on his immense contributions to the development of education within and outside the country. To his credit, he has a sufficient article published in local and national and international journals. He has successfully supervised 15 master's students, 20 postgraduate diploma education, and 2 PhD students. His area of expertise includes school services, supervision, entrepreneurship capacity building, research method, mixed method research, but that is both qualitative and quantitative research. And as well, Dr. Yusuf is currently the director of Center for Research, Industrial Linkage, and International Cooperation, CRIC, at LikeMinds University. So for now, I would like to present to you the person in the name of Dr. Yusuf. We have just read his citation. We welcome you once again, Dr. Yusuf, in the house. You have the floor. Dr. Yusuf. Dr. Yusuf. Probably is having a network itch. Give me a few minutes, a few seconds to get across to him. Thank you very much. But while we are waiting his presence, Dr. Professor Ramide, are you in the house? Professor Ramide. Professor Ramide.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Hello, we can hear you.
Yes, you're welcome, sir.
Hello. Please kindly allow me to share my screen, my slides.
Okay.
Dr. Yusuf.
Please kindly allow me to share my slides.
We have not seen you. I'm coming. Maybe you should log out and relog in.
Let me log out.
I'm looking for you here. Just give me a few minutes, few seconds. Oh,
Hello,
Dr. Razak, I decided. Yes.
Hello,
you're welcome.
Hello, sir. Good evening, sir.
You're welcome. We can hear you. We can hear you, sir. You're welcome.
The other slide is still on. Please remove it.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Dr. Yusuf, you can have the floor now. Hello.
Why, Dr. Yusuf? Hello.
Okay. Dr. Welcome, sir. We appreciate your coming, sir.
Okay. Photo.
Dr. Razak Adisa.
I'm in the house.
You're welcome, sir. We will appreciate your input in the last discussions while we await Dr. Yusuf.
Yes, please, I'm here now.
I wasn't part of the discussion. You can see, I've been in the class, sorry. I joined late.
Okay. Oh, Dr. Yusuf, please share your screen now. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. A very good evening to you all. And I'm extremely glad to be here this evening to give a short presentation concerning the strategies that we can use to conduct interview in qualitative research. However, you will recall that we have had several discussions concerning how to conduct a qualitative research. Of course, as the MC has said earlier, that we have had several discussions earlier that talked on how do you do research in qualitative, how do you do this and that. But today, we are going to be focusing on one of the methods of conducting, collecting data in qualitative research. One of the methods that can be used to collect data in qualitative research. So I've chosen interview. Of course, interview is something that is very common, that people don't often make use of it. When they talk about interview, it is synonym. It is the people might look at it to be a quantitative research stuff. So today I have some slides I want to share. I have 47 slides, and I strongly believe that I'll be able to share the slides and complete it. However, if there's need for me to skip them, I will do the needful and focus more on the specific things that people would need concerning the interview method of data collection in qualitative research. Now, I have this outline of presentation which I've outlined what we need to know, meaning and purpose of research, because we cannot jump into the use of interview for data collection without giving power knowledge or power information to people who may be coming to this segment for the first time, so that they will understand the background of what qualitative research entails. So there's need for them, for people who are coming for the first time, to understand what qualitative research is all about. And then subsequently, they can now be informed, be equipped on how to conduct interview in qualitative research. So I have the meaning and purpose of research. They have the concept of qualitative research. I have approaches to qualitative research here. They have the concept and usefulness of interview and types of interview, the materials that are needed for interview, the ethical consideration interview, then the effective strategies that researchers can make use of to conduct the interview when they are doing their research qualitatively. Then the last but not the least is based on the segment on the Q and A session, which of course people want to ask questions regarding what has been presented. So I move to the next slide. Of course, there's no any discussion. We in the teacher education, we strongly believe that our students or the participants must be able to know what they want to gain at the end of the session. So in view of this, I've coined out 5 objectives of the webinar, of course, which I deduced from the cognitive and affective domains of learning, as suggested by taxonomy. And of course, I want at the end of the study, the participants should be able to understand the meaning of research. 2, to distinguish between quantitative and qualitative research. 3, to familiar with the concept of qualitative research. Then number 4, to understand the steps that are involved in qualitative research. Then number 5, to custom the rule of terms. Of course, when I talk about qualitative research in this aspect, I'm actually referring to the use of interview for data collection. So let's begin with this, the meaning of research. Of course, we all know that research is something that is common and is often done on a daily basis. And of course, the statistics shown that people conduct research on a daily basis across the continent of the world. And of course, research will continue to be done until the world will cease to exist. So in as much as we continue to live, research will be conducted on a daily basis. And of course, you will recall that virtually in all tertiary institutions, whether monotechnics, polytechnic, and college educations or universities, research is an ongoing process. Research is normal. Research is being done on a daily basis. And of course, if there's no research, then there's no, I don't think there will be work. Okay, so research was originally derived from the French word, which you can see as from chercher, which means search or seek. And this prefix re, it means again and again. that something that you need to do again and again. And of course, that again and again encompasses the possibility of seeking for the truth again and on certain aspect of a problem which was studied before from a different and distinct point of view. Of course, what this slide is saying is that research is something that you need to do again. You are doing it for you to explore or for you to identify a problem that is on ground and with a view to providing solution to the problem that you have established. And of course, and you look at it that one of the things that we are using today, the new things that we have gotten, the way and manner we are doing things, what of the things that we are dealing with it on a daily basis, many things that we use in terms of wealth, in terms of facilities, they were discovered via research, which means that research is something that we will continue to do that. And of course, research will continue to give us something new that will benefit not only the researchers, but also the humanity. Now, again, research is also a systematic process of collecting, analyzing, and interpreting information, that's data, to increase the understanding of a phenomenon about which we are interested in. As I said earlier, that this the definition is also in tandem with the first definition given. That research is also a process, it's a systematic process of getting the information that are needed to provide solution to that problem, that we solve it. And of course, according to another one, he said it's a study of trend or event which involves collection of interpretation, analysis, and interpretation of data, whether quantitative or qualitative. So generally, research is something that we do to ensure that we identify the problem, then get solutions to the problem. And as I said earlier, that research is something that you seek to do again and again and again. So according to the American sociologist Robert Babbage, he discovered and come to the conclusion that research is something that is systematic in nature, that it seeks to gain inquiry and describe, predict, and control the observed phenomenon. And of course, research practically or generally can be viewed from 2 points of direction. That is, I'm talking about the philosophy behind research. Any research that we conduct on daily basis, it can be viewed from 2 perspectives. We have what we call positivism, and we have what we call interpretivism. Positivism paradigm of philosophy is synonymous or is in line with quantitative research and qualitative, where we normally use survey, questionnaire, and what have you. So those who belong to the school of thought of positivism, they believe that data that the research can be conducted using large number, using survey, using large number of participants, and so they don't believe in the quantitative research. So those who belong to this positivism, they are called positivists, and of course they conduct their research using quantitative approach. Now, for the interpretivism, this one is focusing another research paradigm that is in line with what we call qualitative research. And of course, interpretivism is a school of thought where people believe that research can be conducted without having large number of population, and that a small sample can help you to get the information that you need for your research. So those who belong to this type of philosophy, they are called interpretivists. And of course, the philosophy is called interpretivism. So it's another school of thought that believe that research can be conducted through interview and through focus discussion and what have you. Now move on. So what are characteristics of research? Research is a systematic approach. The analysis is based on logical reasoning and involves inductive and deductive. Real-time data collected in research, and of course, this is just a preamble that we want participants to understand before we move to the interview session. Now, purpose of research. Why do we carry out research? As I said earlier, that research is carried out generally to assist us in finding solution to a problem that we have identified. Research is conducted on a daily basis for us to bring new things, for us to solve some problems that we are battling with. Of course, we deal with problems on a daily basis. Of course, there is this issue of drug abuse among students. There is this issue of sexual harassment. There is this issue of examination malpractice. There is this issue of bad leadership. We have there are plethora of issues. The problems that we have, of course, they can be solved if you are able to get research that will do that. So, in view of this, research seeks to find solutions to problems identified in society or by the researcher. So now let me move to what is then the meaning of qualitative research. Qualitative research has to do with the characteristics or features of something rather than its quantity. So qualitative research is something that is based on the study that focuses on something that is not done in quantity, but rather in quality. And the qualitative research is another area of research that is focusing or primarily based on using a small sample size to get what you want to get, rather than using large sample size like we have today. So qualitative research is an area that people, especially in Africa context, that we are not yet getting it, and of course we are still looking at it, and we are glued to the other aspect of research is quantitative. So qualitative research is area that is trending now and has gained wider acceptance, and of course, and it is trending, and the people have started loving it now. But as time goes on, people continue to be guided and be informed on the need for them to use it. So it's the simple word. Qualitative research is something that has to do with getting information using what we call based on quality, but not based on quantity. So quantitative research it also involves collection of data of non-numerical data. In this type of research, it does not necessarily mean that you need to use what we call numerical data. So the data used here is called the non-numerical data. Of course, it includes text, video, audio, tips, and others. So quantitative research generally is the opposite of quantitative research, which involves collecting and analyzing data for statistical analysis. So generally, quantitative research relies on data obtained from the researcher from first-hand observation, interviews, questionnaires, focus groups, participant observation, recordings made in natural settings, documents, and artifacts. Data are generally non-numerical. So what I'm saying is that in data collection, in quantitative research, we normally use interviews, we use observation, we use focus group discussion, we use artifacts, and data that can be used. But generally, it's not necessarily mean that data we are going to collect will be based on larger large number of participants like we have in the quantitative research. So I'm just trying to give this background so that before we move to how do we now make use of interview to collect data in quantitative research, which we are going to start very soon. So we have approaches to quantitative research. Of course, we have graded theory, ethnography, action research, methodological research, narrative research. These are the approaches that are involved in quantitative research. Of course, it depends on the one you want to choose. So any research you are doing while using quantitative method, it has to focus on either of these approaches that I've listed, whether graded theory approach, whether ethnography, whether action research, whether phenomenological research, whether narrative research. Now, these 5 quantitative approaches to research and inquiry are given below, and you can see the sub-dimensions of these each approaches, and of course, what you need to discover about it. Now, back to the main issue. What are the methods of data collection in quantitative research? You will recall that I said earlier that in quantitative research, it has to do with a process that encompasses data collection using non-numerical data. Okay, is the type of data collection research that is conducted using what we call non-numerical data. So, which means that in qualitative research, it has to do with research that is not based on the large population of a participant or respondent, as we normally have it in the UC survey. So now, these are the 4, or to cut it down, these are the methods that we can use to collect data in qualitative research. Of course, one will be asking that, why are you putting survey there? Of course, survey can be used to collect data in qualitative research. But it has to be structured in such a way that it will be qualitative in nature. And of course, it should not look like a survey particularly. Of course, and of course, if you want to mix them together with interview, of course, it can be done. But for today, we are going to be focusing on the use of interview. How can we use interview to collect data in qualitative research? How can we use interview? So that is our focus. Now, what is interview? An interview in qualitative research is a conversation where questions asked to elicit information. So we understand the fact that interview is something that has to do with a kind of one-on-one activities that is involved the interviewer and interviewee. And of course, interview takes place virtually on a daily basis. And of course, the research that was done in the UK shows that interview is conducted on a daily basis across the European countries, and not only European countries, but across African countries, and of course, continents and other continents. So interview is conducted on a daily basis. So it says that an interview is generally a qualitative research technique that involves an open-ended question, and of course, to converse the respondent and collect data about a subject matter that is in the vogue. Now, also, they can be contrasted. Sorry, I'm trying to move this thing up. Okay, thank you. So they can be contrasted with the focus groups. Of course, focus group is also a method of data collection and qualitative research that it will also involve interview. But interview is the most trending, is the most popular way of data collection. Of course, gathering is often called in-depth interview. Of course, so we are going to be focusing on this. I said that it's also can be defined as it's contrasted with focus group, in which an interviewer questions a group of people and observes the resulting conversation between interviewees or surveys, which are more synonymous and limit respondent to a range of determined answer choices. Now, interviews are the most commonly used qualitative data gathering technique and are used with graded theory, focus groups, and other studies. Interviews are purposive conversations between the researcher and the interviewee. Interviewer or researcher. Interviewer is also called interviewer in qualitative research. So interviewee is the person that researcher or interviewer is asking questions from. So you can see that from looking at this picture, you can see that the interviewer is the one sitting by the right side, with some booklet with him, paper with him, asking the interviewee. So generally, the interviewee is in the orange color, while the interviewer is in the light blue color, navy color. So now, what are the types of interviews that we have? What are the types of qualitative interviews? We have what we call structured interviews. We have what we call semi-structured interviews, and we have what we call unstructured interviews. So it depends on the aspect that you want to look at. When you're talking about structured interviews, it means you are talking about interviews that is based on structured items, structured approach that the interviewer will be guided based on the question that you want to ask. And the question will not be beyond the boundary that the interviewer will set in. When you're talking about semi-structured interviews, of course, another type of interview is qualitative research. That is either structured or what is called that is not totally a structured pattern of data collection. Then when you talk about unstructured, it means that this type of interview, it has no limit. That is, of course, the interviews can conduct freely, and the participant can be able to freely give what he or she will be given to the interviewer. Now, generally, there are three different types of interviews that are available and that are being conducted, on daily basis. Of course, we have what we call virtual interview. We do interview online. We interview people online, and we do what we call telephone interview as well. We have what we call information interview, screen interview. We do interview for people who want to get job. We do interview for people who want to seek admission. We do interview for people who want to. We do interview for people who are politicians. We interview people. For example, the journalists interview people on a daily basis, of course, based on their nature of work. All these are called interview, and of course, we interview for research purpose as well. What is interviews that can be conducted? They are meant to achieve a specific objective. Okay, so there are other types of interview that we have, as they have listed them here. Now, generally, interview can be conducted through 4 major types. These are not the final type of interview. I mean, the method of interview. But we can conduct interview through our email. If you look at our email, we have what we call for those of us who are using Gmail, we have what we call Hangout through our email address. Of course, we can discuss, share that platform, and do interview with our participants on the for the research. Of course, we have the telephonic interviews. We can do interview through telephone. It depends on the mood of the. It depends on the approach that the researcher want to use. Interview can be conducted through telephone. Let's say, for instance, you want to interview people who are working in Borno State. I know that Borno State in Nigeria is generally a volatile area. Not all Borno states in Nigeria, but it's just a small part of the country is having some security issue. And of course, you need to do interview. So instead of you to go there, once you're able to get interviewer in the participant information, phone number, of course you can begin your interview with them through the telephone. And of course, you can be at home and do interview with your participant that you want to use. It depends on the nature or approach that you want to make use of. And of course, even though there are general guidelines that in which you need to put in place to do this, because there are certain factors that need to be considered. That is the participant phone number available? Is the participant ready to grant interview? Is the participant ready to share the information that you want to get from me? So these are the questions that you need to put in place before you do that. They also we do what we call personal interview, which we do on daily basis, of course, where we call it one-on-one interview, physical interview. And also we have what we call web interview. The interview can be conducted through the website, as I said earlier, the Zoom, the what's it called? Other platforms, social media, the WhatsApp and the like. So we can do interview through various methods. Now, what are the characteristics of an interview? Interviews are completed by the interviewer based on what the interviewee says to be. And of course, interviews are far from personal form of research than questionnaires. So I've listed close to 8 characteristics of interviews, which of course the interview provides a kind of opportunity of face-to-face interaction between 2 persons. Of course, generally, interview in qualitative research is people look at it as a two-way activities, which involves the interviewer and interviewee sitting together to be exchanging ideas, of course, and where the interviewer will be posting questions to the interviewee, while the interview will be responding to the questions and for the purpose of qualitative research. So, interview is not like a survey that we have in the what's called, it's a questionnaire as we have in the quantitative research. So interview is something that is done by conversing with the participant, by sitting down in the comfortable place, conduct interview and get the necessary information through the recorded platform. So the characteristics, as I said earlier, we have the interview as what we call open-ended questions, which give respondents the freedom to answer questions using their own words. We have what we call semi-structured format. Interviews can be conversational with questions flowing from previous responses when possible. Also, seek understanding and interpretation. Interviewer should continually seek clarity and understanding the throughout the interview. And of course, what are the importance of interview? Interviews allow researchers to collect detailed information about participant experiences, opinions, attitudes in their own word, providing a richer understanding of the research topic than other question methods. This is said by Creswell 2010 and Clark 2018, which means that the main purpose of interview is for you to get information about the participants' past experience, participant opinions, and his attitude, so that you can be able to give a richer understanding and, of course, reporting of what he has said for you to be able to make inference, to draw inference, or for you to be able to conclude and say this is what's happening. So why do we do interview? We do interview to provide insight into how research participants view the world. Interview as flexible research instrument, widely employed in qualitative research. It controls over data collection, production, not self-completed by respondents, follow-up areas of interest, gain an understanding of the context of the respondent, more complete data. It helps in clarity and help researcher, the respondent, understand the meaning of questions. It helps, interview also helps, it helps to provide what we call further information or clarification. Now, before you do interview, the researcher must fulfill certain things. One, the researcher must have drawn up or must have outlined the research topic that he or she will conduct. Two, the researcher must have written his introduction, written his literature review, written his methodology. Of course, after doing that, then the researcher will now have to develop what we call interview guide. Interview guide is an instrument, or is a guide that researcher use to conduct interview. It's just like a questionnaire. Like the other like a quantitative research where researcher make use of questionnaire. In this aspect, the researcher use what we call interview guide. So interview guide is a guide that will direct the activities of the researcher in conducting the interview with the participant. So generally, an interview guide is a list of questions or topics that the interviewer hopes to cover during the course of the interview. So an interview guide generally is simply a list of the high-level topics that you plan on covering the interview, the high-level questions that you want to answer on that topic. So basically, interview guide is generally a document that researcher use to guide him or himself in conducting interview with the participants. So if you are conducting research in qualitative research, if you don't have interview guide, it means that you are not ready for the research. The guide has enormous importance. And of course, there's no how we can conduct the interview. If you fail to have the interview guide, it means that something is wrong with you. It is not a matter of not be patient. You have to be patient, understand the integrity of it. Remember, I said before you can move to develop your guide, you must have gotten your topic, you must have written your literature review, you must have written your research questions and objectives, you must have written your methodology, which will include the research design, which is research design, the population, the sample techniques, the interview guide, ethical consideration, and all that. So, but under the methodology, there's something that is very important under it. It is under some people call it interview protocol, and some people call it interview guide. So I'm choosing to use the word interview guide. So interview guide is a guide that simply assists the researcher to ask questions during the interview section. Now, an interview guide is vital to the sources of value to hiring. It also helps saving money in the interview process, as you can zero in on the right candidate. It can also improve interview skills by minimizing mistakes that are based on gut feelings and false impressions. Now, what should be included in research interview guide? What are the things, or what are the contents? How should interview guide be structured? How should interview guide be designed? How should interview guide be properly designed so that for the purpose of ensuring that it is useful for you, for the researcher, and can be able to achieve the objectives that are meant to achieve. Now, the things to include interview guide are topics to be covered with the interviewee, the background questions about the interviewee. I said earlier that don't make mistake. Interviewee is also called participant in qualitative research. Some people may use interviewee and some people may use participant. It's just nomenclature. The two are the same. If you are saying interviewee, it means you are talking about participant. You say participant, it means you are referring to interviewee. Don't mistake it. That is the term in qualitative research. But in quantitative research, we normally use what we call respondents. But in qualitative research, we use what we call participant or interviewee. So also a plan for the structure of these questions, then you need to have a plan for initiating a follow-up with interviewee, and also you need to have a note-taking and feedback space for each concept. Now, what makes a good qualitative interview guide? How do we know that the interview guide is good or not? What are the things that we normally look at in interview guide? And I said earlier that some people may call it the interview protocol. Some people may call it interview guide. It's still the same thing. You say interview guide, some people will write it interview protocol. You are still making the same meaning. You are right. If you are saying interview guide, you are saying interview protocol, it's still the same thing. So how do you now design or write an interview questions that will be included in the interview guide? You don't ask leading questions. 2, behavioral attitudinal is important. They ask open-ended questions instead of closed questions. Of course, there's no how if you are asking closed questions interview, it means that you are not interview. It means you are restricting the participants you are limiting them to the corner. Of course, which is a deficit or a weakness on the part of the quantitative research, which is called survey. So unlike survey, where we box respondent to corner, where we restrict respondents to certain limits. So in quantitative research, there's no room for limiting them. The participants are free to open their minds as long as the questions are coming. Also, don't use double-barreled questions. Of course, your interview questions must not be the one that will be too double-barreled. The questions should be structured in such a way that it will be clear and unambiguous, that the interview participant will be able to understand it, and of course, it will not even mislead the participant. Of course, some questions, some people who don't understand how to do research will not interview. Normally, the questions that they normally use often put the participant off, and of course, they will not have interest in listening to the participant and to the researcher because of the questions and the way and manner they are asking the questions. So lastly, you need to differentiate between quantitative and qualitative questions. There are questions that if you put them in qualitative, people will know that these questions are qualitative questions. For instance, in quantitative research, we focus on the issue of why and how. Why do you do this? These are questions that are synonymous with qualitative research. So in any interview guide or interview protocol, anyhow you want to call it, the interview guide usually contains two sections. But then here I call it component of interview guide. Your interview guide must contain two sections, which is called, the first one is called section A. Section A encompasses the participant demographic information. That is the information that you need from the participant, which includes the participant age, the participant organization, the participant marital status, the participant highest level, the highest qualification, the participant religion, participant marital status, participant economic social status, participant job placement, and participant rank. It depends on how you want to coin it. It's similar to what we have. It's similar to what we have in quantitative research. So in quantitative research, we also have section A, which we normally look at the respondent profile. Okay. So also in quantitative research, we equally look at the demographic information of the respondent participant to look at what they want to do. And this information are very germane in any research we conduct in quantitative aspect, because we need to know more about the background information of the participant that we want to engage with. Now, section B of the interview guide encompasses the questions that you really want to ask your participant. And I've looked at it. I said that the interview guide must have part A, which is participant information. Then part B or section B will now contain the questions that you really want to ask the participant about your work. And note this, that your questions to be asked that you intend to ask your participant must be coined out or derived or deduced from your research questions or your research objectives as you may have it. Of course. So your research questions must be the questions that you put in your interview guide must be reduced from the questions that you have put in under your research questions in the body of the work. So you have to be very careful. Your research title will now bring out the research questions that you want to ask. For your research questions that you want to ask, that you have listed, will now form the basis for which your interview questions will be designed. So basically, the second part of the interview guide, section B, usually contain the questions of why and how. Why do you want to do this? What is this? There are questions that are that doesn't restrict the discussion of the participant. There are questions that will give the participant freedom to express themselves. So these are the questions we can see. I see. How does that make you feel? Is a question. Can you give me an example? Can you describe that for me? How? Why? So you need to write, your questions will be what? Must be open-ended questions that you need to put under your interview guide for section B. Now, I've given a sample of a research that is quantitative in nature. And of course, I want to give you an example of interview guide that I have with me here. And of course, I have a topic with me. I said, admission services in public senior secondary schools in Kwara State, Nigeria. A qualitative approach. Written by who? Written by Yusuf, Suleiman, for example. So now I have the following research questions I want to use. I said, what is principal's view concerning contemporary issues on admission services in secondary schools? Number two, I said, what is principal's perceived problems militating against admission services in school? Number three, I said, what is principal's perceived solutions to the problems of admission services in school? So generally, this work is based on admission services that people offer students in school. And of course, we want to investigate this topic or this research using the qualitative approach, interview. And of course, we want to begin to ask questions. So these are the research questions that have been coined. And of course, based on the research questions that I've done, I've now designed my interview guide. You can see it has the logo of the school where I'm doing my work. Then it has an interview guide on admission services, and I've coined it. I give the interview guide must have it must have acronym. You can see interview guide on admission. You can see IGAS, that is IGAS. So, and I said the purpose of the interview is to know the perception of principals or relation between services and academic achievement of secondary schools for our state. And of course, I have section A of the session. So in this work, the participants in this research, of course, we used the principals and teachers to do as a participant for the quiz. The principals and teachers were used for as a participant, and of course, from section A, we have the profile of the participant, the gender, we have the age, the religion, qualification, length of service, and school name. Of course, you have to be very careful in putting the school name there. If you get the name of the participants, the name of the school's name of the participant, you must not disclose it. Otherwise, the privacy of the participant will be exposed. So I have section B. Section B, it has to do with interview questions on admission and social services. So under this one, I raised 5 questions. These questions were raised based on the research questions that are formulated earlier on in the body of the work. Okay. Now, under the interview questions, there are stages involved in constructing interview questions using funnel model. Funnel model is a model that will tell you that your questions must be designed stage by stage, step by step. We call it funnel. You can see the arrows. You can see a kind of arrow linking from step 1 to the other one. So this funnel is a funnel that has been used and that has gained popularity among scholars. According to Shekara and Bugi, 2010, and of course Clark 2019, as well as Creswell 2011 as well, they have reviewed that when designing questions in quantitative research, you have to be guided by certain principles. And what? 1, you need to understand your topic very well. 2, you need to ensure that your research questions in the body of the work are well coined based on extensive literature review. 3, your methodology must be well structured, it must be well written, and must not be ambiguous in nature, so that from there you'll be able to understand where you want to. The moment you don't understand what your research questions are not well clearly stated, then there is likely that the possibility of messing up the interview guide will be there, and that, of course, that will lead to disaster. That will make your work not to be real, and you may end up getting data that is not relevant. So in doing your research questions, you must follow this step. 1, aligning your interview questions with research questions. You can see that the first step is that you need to align your interview questions with your research questions. Then that will now increase the utility of the interview questions to ensure that questions are necessary of the study. Number 2, you need to construct an inquiry-based conversation. That is, your inquiry must be based on the conversation between you and your participant. 3, getting feedback, receiving feedback from interviews protocol. Of course, there's no how you do interview and you don't get feedback. That's why we normally encourage us to do what we call pilot study in research. And of course, pilot study is also common in quantitative research. Little for people that do research in quantitative aspect. So you need to get the feedback based on your interview guide to tell you whether you have done the interview guide well or not. The last, you need to do piloting of the interview. Of course, I said earlier that you need to do the interview, you need to do pilot to ensure that your interview questions are well written and you get feedback from the participant before you go for the major data collection. Now, credibility of the interview guide. You will recall that as we have it in quantitative research, where we call it validity of instruments. Here, under quantitative research, we normally have what we call validity and liability of the instrument. But in quantitative research, we don't call it that. We call it credibility, or we call it trustworthiness of the interview guide, or trustworthiness of the interview protocol. That is the terms that are used in quantitative research. And of course, credibility is a measure of the truth value of quantitative research, or whether the study's findings are correct and accurate. To some degree, It relies on the credibility of the researchers themselves, as well as their research and methods. So credibility of the qualitative data can be assured through multiple perspectives throughout data collection to ensure that data are appropriate. This may be done through data investigator or theoretical triangulation, participant validation, or member checks for the rigorous techniques used to gather the data. So, in synopsis, after you might have written your interview guide, as a researcher, you need to, there are two things you need to check in your interview guide. One, you need to check the face validity of the face credibility of the interview guide. You need to look at it. You need to give it to people, experts in the area of qualitative research, in the area of your people that are like minds. You need to send your interview guide to them for them to look at it and help you do what you call face validity and what you call content validity. Sorry for using validity. It should be face credibility and content credibility. So when you're talking about face credibility, it encompasses that even me looking at the interview guide, one will say, oh, this is a good interview guide in terms of the face looking at face looking of me looking at the interview properly. You can say, oh, this is a good interview guide. Of course. Secondly, we have what we call content credibility. Content credibility. Then, aside from looking at the face validity or face value of the interview guide, then the content of the interview guide must be checked. And this is where experts in qualitative research need to assist the researcher. As a researcher, you need to print, like, it depends, it may print like 5 interview guides and give it to experts who are also grounded in qualitative research for them to help you check it, for them to help you check whether the questions are well designed, whether your questions are tally with your research questions that you have in your main work, and to see the way you have structured, to see whether all the items that are there in the interview guide are measuring what they're supposed to measure. So in simple terms, you need to look at the way the interview guide is structured facially. Then secondly, you need to look at the content, because some researchers may be doing a wrong thing by having questions that are totally relevant to their set questions. And some people normally mix it up in terms of having separate research questions of the body of the work and having separate research questions, interview questions in the interview guide. This is wrong. So what I'm saying is that your research topic, for your research topic, you need to coin out your research questions. For your research questions, you need to deduce from it and form your interview questions that will be included in section B of the interview guide. So as a researcher in qualitative approach, you need to be guided on ensuring that the validity, the credibility of the interview guide is ascertained. So one, you need to give it to experts with your feed who is very grounded in that area for them to check and cross-check and to look at what is missing the interview guide, what it's supposed to do, and make some objective criticisms, objective observations that will help researcher to correct and make the final copy of the interview guide. So by doing this, it means that you have done what we call face credibility and content credibility. And aside that, after doing that, then the interviewer needs to subject the interview guide to pilot test. You need to conduct what we call pilot test. Pilot test is a test that is conducted using a small sample of participants. And of course, it's a mini study. It's a mini study that is being done before the actual study. So basically, the essence of pilot study is to guide or to give the researcher feedback about the validity or the credibility or the some useful information about the way the interview guide is drafted. So unlike what we have in questionnaire, where we do what we say we normally conduct reliability of the instrument, we do test or we do test with test. In this one, we can also do what we call pilot study by giving selecting 2 participants outside your target participant for them to interview. You can do like 2 or 3, or it's 2 or 3, or it's 2. So it depends on what you want. Then interview them and get feedback from them. Whatever they give to you, you look at it and check whether what they have given you is also in line with what you want. And also, of course, the pilot study for a quantitative research will enable the researcher to know the weaknesses of his interview guide and know how to correct them before going for the data collection using interview. So now, what are the 4 criteria of credibility of interview guide? 1, the interview guide must be relevant. Of course, as I said earlier, that the interview guide must have relevant information that you need. If the interview guide does not have relevant information, it means you are heading into the wrong direction. So your interview guide must have something that is really important to your needs. Of course, like for instance, your research questions must be the one that will form your interview questions in the interview guide. So 2, authority. Your source of information is important. Where you get your interview questions, where you get your questions is important. Of course, you can adapt questions from previous research. You can adapt, adopt, or self-design. But I want to strongly advise students who are doing PhD or masters in qualitative research to please, therefore, to adapt questions from the previous studies or adopt for items from. You can adapt interview guide to conduct your study. Likewise, that's what we have in quantitative research also, where we normally adapt instruments. We either adapt, adopt, or self-design. Ditto for this one too. You can adopt interview guide, you can adapt, you can self-design. But when you are adapting interview guide, it means that the interview guide will be adapted from the previous work, subject to modification, subject to tampering of the information there, subject to manipulation, subject to altering of information that you don't need, subject to removal of unwanted items. That's adapting instrument, adapting interview guide. When you talk about adopting interview guide, it encompasses adopting or taking the interview guide from previous researchers who have conducted research on similar aspects. So you can take the interview guide and use it like that without subjecting it to any manipulation. So meaning that adopting interview guide is subject to no modification or alteration. You just take it like that and use it. It depends on what you want to use it for. Then also accuracy. Your interview must be accurate. Your interview guide must be accurate. It must be correctness. It must have something that is not ambiguous. It must have questions that are not controversial. It must have questions that are thoughtful. It must have interview questions that are provoking. Interview questions that are needed to address the problem you are trying to address. Then the last one, purpose. The purpose that you want to achieve must be achieved. If your interview guide cannot lead to that, it means your research will totally collapse. I will not get it. Will just be a wasted effort in which you have done a work which is not serving the purpose that you want it to serve. Of course, we are not saying that researchers should be preemptive. You can, but the research must focus on purpose, and your purpose of the study must be achieved. And if your purpose is not achieved, it means something is wrong, either with your interview guide or the research questions or the way you have coined the title. Or perhaps maybe the researcher doesn't understand what he or she is doing. So what I'm saying is that the purpose of the study is also important. Now, what are the 4 cores of credibility in interview guide? Your interview guide must have integrity. Your interview guide must have intent of purpose. Number 3, it must have capabilities. Number 4, it must have outcome results. If you don't have results of your work, then it means nothing is happening. Now, pilot study, as I said earlier, that after you have developed your interview guide, then you need to subject it to what we call pilot study. Pilot study, I said earlier, is a small, investigation or a study that's conducted prior to major data collection. It's a study that is conducted briefly to ascertain the correctness or the level of appropriateness of the interview guide or interview protocol that you want to use to conduct interview. So you need to do a pilot or preliminary study, and it is referred to a small scale of a complete survey or a test for a particular research instrument, such as questionnaire or interview guide. Pilot studies could be conducted in quantitative, and even mixed method. Since pilot studies are based on method intended for a full scale, the quantitative and quantitative method can be used. It means that pilot study can be conducted in either of the two, but people normally focus on the quantitative research, which is survey. No, and in quantitative research as well, you can subject your interview guide to what we call pilot study, and you can make use of 2 or 3 participants that will be selected that will not be part of the main data collection. So by the time you do you do pilot study, then you get feedback from them, then you correct where you have made mistakes. You need to take it back to the participant to cross-check whether what you have interviewed them is what they have said, and also to check whether what they have recorded is what it has been interpreted. So it's very important. So pilot study is usually, so for people who are doing qualitative research, also make sure that you do pilot study of your interview guide, so that it can be, the interview guide can have more credibility and can be trusted. And of course, there are plethora important advantages of the pilot study. 1, it helps to guide the researcher in the direction of the research. 2, it helps the researcher to erase any abnormality or any mistake that could be found before the major data collection. 3, it enables the researcher to preempt what will be the actual result in the final analysis. Number 4, it ensures that the researcher understands the mode or the tone of the interview that will be conducted in the main work. Now, pilot study, is also, it's a kind of a main trial. It's a pre-trial or pre-testing of an interview instrument, interview guide that you want to use. Of course, it focuses on looking at randomized pilot study, other feasibility study, and look at whether it will be feasible for you to do the major study. So all these are what we call piloting or pre-testing of the pilot study interview guide, to know whether the interview guide will be useful or not. Of course, we have discovered that in the past, by the time people do what we call pilot study of the interview guide, they may discover now that, maybe they have made some mistakes. There's need for them to correct to go back to the drawing board and look at what is missing in the interview guide for them to be able to do the normal corrections for the final data collection. Now, ethical consideration. Before you do your interview, you must consider certain principles must be put in place. Otherwise, there will be a problem. In qualitative research, it is very important that you need to look at what we call ethical consideration. Before you do your interview, it means that you must have an interview guide which has been designed, it has been pilot testing, it has been checked, it is a guide that is okay, you have everything there. Then, before you do the interview guide, you need to, first and foremost, seek the consent of the participant. Let's say, for instance, I want to interview the Vice Chancellor of Uhuru Kenyatta University in Kenya. So it means that before I go there, I cannot just go there and say I want to interview him. I'll go to the University of Uhuru Kenyatta University and give him a form that I want to conduct an interview with you, and I brought this in consent for you to assent or for you to consent to the interview that we agree to conduct. So you have to respect the privacy of the interviewer. You have to respect the dignity. You have to respect all necessary things that are related to the participant. Otherwise, if you don't focus on ethical consideration, then you will not be able to get your data collected, because that participants may not have freedom, and they may not be able to trust you as a researcher because you don't respect their privacy. So generally, before you do your interview, first and foremost, you need to send consent for you. Go to the school that you are choosing or the participant, give participants consent form that you would like to conduct an interview with him, that he should please be ready and give you date for you to come. And of course, that the outcome of the study will be anonymous, that will not reveal the participant name and others. So the participant must have confidence in you that you not expose them to, you not expose their information to the public. So, because otherwise, if you expose them privately, then it will have and resort to what we call problem. Also, one of the most important ethical conditions in qualitative research is what we call informed consent. Informed consent is a consent form that is designed and to be given to the participant who, for him to sign and agree to participate in the study. If the participant does not consent to the form, it means interview cannot take place until when the interviewer and the participant agree and sign that you are allowed to come and interview me. Then you are making sense. Then generally, what are the areas that you need to look at under research ethics? One, you need to look at the accuracy, credibility, confidentiality. Confidentiality is important. You need to let everything be confidential. If you reveal the information of the participant, then you may not be able to get information next time when you come. So you need to look at, you have to be honest as well. Honesty is also important. Protecting their image, protecting the information is also important. Authenticity. Of course, you have to be authentic also in whatever you are doing. If you are not authentic in whatever you are doing, then that could be a problem. You have to, your work has to be original. The research that you are doing has to be original. It has to be something that is real and not funded on the line. Then originality, your work must be original. Your interview guide must be original. It must be something that you have designed to achieve certain goal. Now, what are the tools that you need to conduct interview with the participants? What are the tools? What are the ingredients that you need to conduct interview with participants? Of course, these tools that I've listed, of course, is subject to other argument that, oh, we need other this. Of course, it is not limited to this one. But according to Creswell and Clark, 2011, who wrote book on the qualitative research, they suggested that in conducting any interview, there are certain equipment or tools that are needed for you to conduct the interview. As you can see on the screen, the interviewer is there. We have the interviewee. So you need what we call digital audio tape is needed for you for interview. 2, you need a jotter or writing paper, writing materials is important. 3, you need biro or pencil. It depends. If you want to use biro to jot, is okay. If you want to use pencil, is okay. But if you're looking for a pencil, then you need to have eraser. So some people may likely use pencil or biro. It depends on what you want to use in your work. 3, you need camera. So if you are doing interview, you may need to cover to take pictures of your interview, of course, to show the audience that you actually carried out that interview, and not that you formulated the data elsewhere. Because what we have discovered that in the African context is that some people sit down in their room and, of course, conjure some information and say this is data. So for you to prove further, you need to have camera to capture the event and show the audience that, of course, you have actually done the real work. Especially if you are doing masters or PhD and you are using interview method, then there's need for you to take pictures of your interview with participants and put them at the back of your thesis or your dissertation as appendix, so that to show the level of confidence of originality of your work, and to show that you actually carried out your research. The table and chairs. Of course, you cannot conduct interview with participants without having table and chairs. Of course, these two are important, and of course, the table and chair. The table must be well designed. It must be a good table that we accommodate the two actors in the interview. And of course, aside that, you need to take into consideration that if you are doing interview, you must close the door. You must not allow visitors to enter the interview room so that it will not disrupt the flow of the interview. Also, as a researcher, you need to tell the participant to put his phone, on the aeroplane mode, so that the flight mode, so that the calls will not be coming in. If calls are coming in, it could distract or distort the flow of the conversation. And of course, you should endeavor to take permission from the participant that please, I would like to close the door so that people will not be coming in. And also, you as a participant, as a researcher, you must put your phone in flight mode so that calls will not be coming in. Because if calls are coming in, then it could distract or distort the flow of the interview process. So all these things need to take into consideration. As I said earlier, that you need to put off your phone. You need to tell the participant also to put the phone off. You need to close the door when you want to do the research. Then you need to have table and chair where you can sit comfortably with your participant. Now, when you are preparing for interview, there are certain things that you need to put in place. Number one, have no distractions. As I said earlier, I said you need to close the door very well. You need to tell the participant to switch off his phone. You too, as a researcher, need to switch off your phone. Then you must not do the interview in a noisy environment. 3, you need to ensure that you have all the necessary materials on ground to do the interview, like a camera, jotters, biro, pencil, of course, the audio digital tape that you want to use for the interview. Then everything must be silent and the interview will be well done. Number 2, explain the interview purpose. Before you start the interview, you need to tell the participant the purpose of the study, that you want to do this interview to ascertain this, and this. Because if the participant does not understand what you want to do, then he may not be able to give you audience. But by the time you inform the participant that, look, I'm conducting interview, this research, basically to examine the nature of admission services in public secondary schools in Nigeria. So the participant will understand, oh, the researcher is looking at this problem, and of course, and I'll be ready to give you audience. So it's important. So all this must be put in place. All this, you need to explain to the participant, otherwise you may not be able to get it done. You may not be able to interview any interviewee. Number 3, address the terms of confidentiality. Excuse me. You need to let your participant to have high level of confidence in you. And 2, you need to assure your participant that the information to be collected from them will be kept and will not be revealed to anybody unless the participant give the researcher the permission to do so. So at no point, at no occasion should you as a researcher have no confidentiality about the participant work. So you need to explain to the participant that, look, all the information that we collected from you will be kept confidentially, and it will not be exposed, and it shall be used for the purpose of research. Number 4, explain the interview format. Before you start with your interview, explain to him that, oh, sorry, my name is Suleiman, and I'm having so interview guy with me. Interview guy
4 minutes left.
How many left?
About 5-7 minutes.
Okay. So you need to explain the format of the interview to the participants. It's important. They also, you need to you need to indicate the interview duration. How many time do you want to spend? How many duration do you want to cover? Is it 20 minutes, 15 minutes, is it 40 minutes, is it 1 hour? It depends. But interview must not be the duration of the interview must not be too much. Otherwise, the participant may not may get tired. And of course, there's rule of thumb of the time duration for the interview to be conducted. Yes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It depends on what you want to choose. Of course, there's a book written on that duration that I can use for the interview. So it depends. So I would suggest that you go and read Creswell, the book of Creswell, to know what is the duration of time that can be used for interview. 15 minutes, some say 20 minutes, some say 30 minutes, even 1 hour. It depends on what you want to achieve. Then explain how to get in touch. They also ask if they have questions. After the interview, ask them that do you have any questions pertaining to what I've done? The participant may give you some tips that, oh, I want to ask some questions. Maybe why are you doing this research? They can ask questions as well. It depends on the nature of the tone. Then number 8, ask for permission to record. Before you record your interview with the participant, you need to say, sorry, I would like to tell you that this interview will be recorded. Of course, they'll say, okay, please go ahead. Then you can now start and do the recording of the session. Then, generally, you need to look at this point. 1, check if the recorder is working. If you are doing interview and the recorder is not working, the tape is not recording anything, it means it's an effort it's a wasted effort. Number 2, you need to ask one question at a time. You need to start asking the question from question 1 to question 2, 3, 4, 5. You don't jump to question 5. You need to. That's why it's systemic in nature. Question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It depends on how you have. If you have like 5 questions, then it means that you need to start the question from question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 4, encourage responses. Number 5, be careful with note taking. If you are doing the interview, you have to take notes, and you have to be fast. You have to be fast in doing that, and take note of what you are doing. You need to judge some things that are very important. Number 6, you need to provide transition between topics. If you want to move from question 1 to question 2, you need to tell the participant that, please, now I'm done with question 1. I would like to move to the question 2. Question 2 is based on this. Please, what is this, and that? So you have to provide transition between topics. Otherwise, you cannot be mixing the two together. Otherwise, it will confuse the participant, and of course, you lose touch of the stuff. The last one is that don't lose control of the interview. The moment you are doing interview and the participant take over the interview from you, it means you have lost it completely. So as a researcher, you must take control of your interview. You must let them know that you are the owner of the work and know what you are doing. Otherwise, some participant may even be smarter than the researcher. If the researcher is not that sound, of course, the interview with the participant will even overwhelm or match down the researcher, because the researcher is not confident and of course cannot do the work himself. Now, the last part is that what are the criteria of a successful interviewer? As a researcher doing quantitative research, what are the criteria that you need to put in place? I think this is the last slide, if I'm not mistaken. 1, this is suggested by Qualitative, which proposed a very useful list of 10 criteria of a successful interviewer. 1, you have to be knowledgeable. If you're not a knowledgeable researcher, you miss it up. 2, you have to structure yourself. 3, you have to be clear in whatever you are doing. Number 4, you have to be gentle. You don't need to be too harsh. You have to be calm, humble. Asking questions, don't be too harsh. Don't be too. Don't give words that are very dangerous and open. So you have to be sensitive to your questions. Another one is that you have to be open. You have to have open mind to your participant. You have a closed mind, it means that you lose touch. Then you have to be steering. You have to, need to know what you want to do. You have to do the steering of the interview must be used properly. 4, critical. You have to be critical in terms of what you are doing. But also remembering. You have to remember what you have done. You have to remember that you have asked the questions. I want to move for that question. You have to do that. Then the last one is interpreting. Then you should be able to interpret what you have done. If he asks you some questions, of course, you need to interpret what it means. For instance, participant may ask you that, what is this? You need to tell him. Let me give you the last slide, which is the quote, which says, stories give life to data, and data gives authority to stories. This is done by Wendy Norman in 2017. The stories give light to data, another gives supporting stories. That I have this one also. He said, you may have heard the world is made up of atoms and molecules, but it is really made up of stories. When you sit with an individual that is being here, you can give quantitative data in quantitative overlay. So what they're saying is that, this is said by the William Turner. What he's saying is that what you can get from the survey, you can also get it from the interview. It just depends on what you want to use. And of course, what you can use to get statistically, it can also be get via text or interview. I have the references, and of course, you have the thanks for listening, and God bless you. Thank you, sir.
Oh, wow, wow. Thank you very much, Dr. Yusuf Suleiman. Before we go into the questions, I really want to take a moment to express my sincere appreciation to Dr. Yusuf's presentation and the strategies for conducting interview in qualitative research. It was evident that Dr. Yusuf is highly knowledgeable and experienced in this field, no doubt about that. And I'm truly impressed with his ability to share that expertise in such a way that it's clear in an engaging manner. You can imagine the strategies presented in these presentations were very, very insightful and practical. And I am confident that they will be of great benefit to anyone involved in conducting qualitative research. Dr. Yusuf's passions and enthusiasm for these presentations were evident throughout the presentation. It was inspiring to see how he was able to communicate that enthusiasm to the audience. Once again, thank you very much, Dr. Yusuf. I must confess, your presentation is very, very fantastic. Going to the main discourse of the day, because we don't have much time left, there are a few questions here that we want to answer. Can I go ahead, Dr. Yusuf?
Sir?
Can I go ahead? Questions?
Okay, questions. Okay, please go ahead.
Okay. My number one person here, the person in the name of Dr. James, he says, and I quote, thanks for the presentation. However, from your slide, from the beginning, you said that part of qualitative research is survey, interview, group discussion, and observation. I want you to tell me more about how survey is seen in qualitative research method. That is your number one question. Would you like to answer that, or should I go along?
Okay, please, can I have the other questions so that I can take everything together?
Okay. He says, and I quote again, another person, he said, in a structured interview where we have planned questions or guides to the interview, how do we carry out and report the credibility of this question or interview guide, just as in survey or any other forms of qualitative research?
Yes, let me answer the first question. Then secondly, I will move to the second one. The first one is saying that how do we see, if I'm not mistaken, is saying that I want to that from one of the slides that from the beginning you said that type of qualitative research is survey interview. Oh yes, I got it. So he's saying that how can we find the survey in qualitative research? And of course, it depends on how you want to go about it. First and foremost, you can have what you call closed questions in your interview guide. We know that in quantitative research, we normally have closed questions, closed-ended questions, where you treat your participant to responded to 5 Likert scale, 7 Likert scale, and all that. Agree, disagree, and what have you. You have boxed your participant or respondent to the corner, and they cannot express further. And also, it depends on how you want to structure your interview guide. Some questions from interview guide can also be coined in such a way that it can be either the structure, close-ended questions and open-ended questions. But what is most important is that in quantitative research is that we often make use of what we call closed-ended questions, which do not restrict the participants, information or to what they can say. And also, you can make the two can be found together. If you are making use of two methods in your work, maybe you are doing quantitative and quantitative research together, mixed method, and you are trying to make use of the questions that are embedded in your questionnaire and take from it to form your questions that will be included in your interview guide. Of course, it's important. And of course, it is advisable that people who want to do in-depth interview should not restrict or should not limit their participants to what we call closed-ended questions. You are advised that we give them the opportunity of doing what we call open-ended, that people can be able to answer. But it depends. And also, the participants' information can be open-ended, open-ended questions. For instance, how many children do you have? 5. Yes or no? Do you have this? Yes or no? Can be part of the participants' information. How many what's the salary? Is it 5 to 10 million US dollar? Yes or no? Yes or no? This can be done. But for the section B, which is interview sessions, the interview questions, it's advisable that the issue of the questions are structured in a way that we not limit the participant flow of information. So the more information we get in the interview, the better. So back to the second questions that was asked from another participant, which is talking about, he said, in the structured interview where we have planned questions or guides to the interview, how do we carry out and report the credibility of these questions? If you are taking questions from other previous studies, if you are adapting questions from items per se, because questions are in different form. We have what we call research questions, and we have what we call interview questions. I said earlier that research questions will dictate the tone and structure of your interview questions that will contain the interview guide. As I said earlier, that interview guide has 2 sections, section A and section B. So if you are adapting items from previous study, you still need to subject that interview guide to credibility, to data trustworthiness. As we normally call it, that validity. You have to give it to people who are experts in that area. Please let me check, and you can give it to 3 experts, so that for them to look at, observe it, look at what they are saying, and see. Because those questions have been tampered with. Those questions or those items that you are taking from other work, they have been tampered with. You have manipulated them. You have removed some unwanted items there and put your own item that you want to put there. So by the virtue of that, it has to go through the credibility. After doing that, you need after checking you need to check the face validity and the content validity. After doing that, you need to subject the interview guide to panel study. Interview people, pre-interview with people that not be part of the main data collection, and see the response that you want to get from them. Because if we don't do this, the possibility of getting wrong information is very high. This is very important. So doing validity or credibility of interview guide is important. It will not only guide you, it will help you to address some gray areas that will come up as a result of the final study that you have done, which of course it will enable you to prepare for the main final data collection. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yusuf. God bless you.
Sorry, sir. I have another question.
Okay, you have.
He said, Dr. James Odono is asking this question. He says, thanks for this. Okay, he said, I want to ask if it's possible to have a pilot study analyzed and published before the restudy. This is a very good question. People don't understand the fact that if you do a pilot study, the pilot study can be published. The pilot study results can be well written and published. You will recall, or if you are a researcher, you will understand the fact that people who conduct quantitative research often they normally publish their pilot study. In fact, it is advisable that people that are doing PhD, their pilot study results should be published or can be published. And this will enable them to have more information about the data that they have collected. This will give them opportunity to prepare for the main study. And of course, by the time the PhD students come back from data collection, from the main data collection, and he or she want to do the final defense, the pilot study that has been published can be tabled before the panel and say that this candidate, because the examiners may want to drop down the PhD student, not the fiber, and say, how do we ensure the credibility of your pilot study, of your interview guide or instrument? And the candidate can tell them to the way that this instrument or interview guide has been subjected to credibility. And the evidence is here because it has been published in top journal. And this is the evidence. Of course, that can be given. And aside that, basically, you can publish your pilot study, it is allowed. But there are ways in which your pilot study should be written and published. Of course, you need to structure the paper in such a way that it will know that you will know that this is a pilot study report. For instance, I can say that the impact of admin services on the student academic performance in the general schools, the pilot study report. That's the topic. I can give that topic and to be published in journal. It depends on how you table your work and of course how the work is written. If the work is well written, of course, it will be published and accepted for publication.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you. I would like to call on Professor Aramide to give us a closing remark. Professor Aramide. Professor Aramide, please, are you there? Okay.
I think Dr. Kennedy is raising his hand.
Oh, Dr. Kennedy?
Yes, Dr. Kennedy, welcome.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Good evening, Dr.
Good evening, you're welcome.
Yeah. Please, I just want to ask a very simple question. While he was presenting, he told us that you can take snapshots of the interview and it can be enclosed in the study as an appendix. Now, I just want to find out how won't that conflict with the confidentiality information?
Please come again. You said?
Well, I'm saying in your presentation, you made us understand that it's important to assure the interviewee that the information we are getting is confidential, that, that it will not, it's confidential. I think it's part of the thing that you mentioned. Then you also said that we can take picture and then put the picture, of the interview as an appendix. So my question is, won't that contradict the confidentiality issue?
Yes, thank you for that question. And of course, if you are taking pictures of people you have interviewed, of course, taking pictures, it has to be in agreement with the participant's consent. You can inform the participant that, sir, these pictures will be part of the research report as an evidence And if the participants agree that you should take the pictures and put it as part of appendix, so be it. But if the participant says no, he does not want his pictures to be included and or shown to anybody, then you have the right to put his picture. Has the right to do that. So what I'm saying is that if the participant gives you the go ahead to put it there, you can do that. But the essence of putting it there is that some people or some reviewers or some panel may want to doubt the validity or otherwise of your data. So as an evidence to back it up, you may show them the picture of the interview so that I can be able to see what transpired. But what I'm saying is that if the participant give you the go ahead to put it there, no problem. But normally some people don't want their pictures to be taken and put there. Let's say, for instance, you are doing what you call analysis research, or you are doing research for governments and others. Of course, as a way of ensuring that the data is credible, the data is real and original, the researchers may take pictures of the interview with almondiaries, with people involved in the issue, and use it as an evidence of the data collected to support their presentation of their report. So it depends. If the participant doesn't give you the go ahead, please don't do it. If you are given go ahead, it depends on you. You may want to put it, I may not want to put it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yusuf Suleiman. Muhammad Lawal Ibrahim, Dr. Muhammad, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, yeah. You have the floor, sir.
Hello?
Yeah, you have the floor. You have the floor.
Okay, I actually don't have much, but to honestly appreciate the presenter. This has been quite educative, and I was actually very dedicated, believing that I was learning from the beginning to the end of it. And I hope we'll have more of this interaction, and we'll plan to extend some of these presentations. I invited some of my students who participated, and this has been very wonderful. We appreciate you, and we pray that God will continue to bless your knowledge and help you to extend this gesture beyond this level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Kolawole Aramide, sir, you may give us the closing remarks, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. We are here,
Am
sir.
I on?
Exactly. You have the floor.
Okay. Thank you very much. Well, this has been a very, very wonderful and interesting evening, and I'm just glad that I didn't miss this, and I know that every other person that has participated will have the same experience as I have. Well, I want to let me appreciate our presenter, the presenters. The first person that taught us about mental health. Honestly, it's a very serious issue now. Let me say, the issue of mental health came to limelight shortly after the COVID-19 issue. Unfortunately, our country, we are not prepared to tackle the problem that arose out of the issue of COVID-19 and all those the fallouts. But having a lecture like this will make somebody to have information about what to do, where to do, how to recognize red flag, and then to nip it in bud as soon as possible. A lot of people died out of mental health issue because there were nobody to help. So the presentation was timely, especially for those of us in the academics that we have so many things to do. You have the student to think about, you have your research, you have your promotion, you have home front. One will not know when you are gradually going to slide into depression. And so we need to understand those basic information so that we can quickly call ourselves to order and save ourselves from any catastrophe. So I want to appreciate the presenter on mental health issue. I also want to appreciate our presenter on interview. It's honestly, for me, I learned a great deal. One of the things I just observed is that interview is not just what we think; it's a serious business. And then that when you want to interview, you must have native intelligence. Otherwise, you won't get what you want to get. One has to be discreet. You have to just watch everything so that you'll be able to get what you get. And you see why I consider this very, very important. The usual use of qualitative method at this point in time is that there have been a lot of issues in researches and findings that people are including publications. We begin to see publications of people being pulled down, being retracted due to false data. And then some of these false data may be from questionnaire and all those stuff. So, but I know that when you use interview, you can get more than what you want, and maybe you will not be able to doctor some things, or you'll be able to actually get the raw fact that you want to get from the participants or the respondents, and that's why it's very important. And for one to know the tricks and all the details that are involved, so that before you go to interview the interviewee, you know how to go about it. You don't just go to the participants thinking that everything will be rosy. You may get there and get the other side. You should be able to manage yourself through. And the presenter has actually done a good job to it. So I want to appreciate the presenter too. And that, and I hope that we'll continue to have more of these things, because it's a learning curve. And then I was discussing with one of my senior person sometimes ago that what is happening now is we begin to deconstruct knowledge and then reconstruct it for better understanding and better enlightenment. So that as researchers, we are being pushed to the tip. We have to be on our toes. Otherwise, people will not recognize, they will not regard us again. And so we must be on top of our game and be able to learn the new things and then be able to apply it to whatever we are doing. So I want to appreciate them and all the participants that are presented, and then the organizers. I'm always proud of you, and then I appreciate it. And then this evening has been a rewarding evening. So thank you very much to everybody. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ramide. May God bless you. So, in the absence of no questions, no observation, we would like to call it a day. Thank you, everybody. Good night, and do have a wonderful night rest.
Bye. Bye.
Hello.